introduce yourself to everybody, tell us what you do, and tell us a little bit about Good on You.
Okay, so I'm Sandra Capponi. I'm the co-founder of Good on You, which is a global shopping app that rates fashion brands for their impact on people and planet. We're all about empowering shoppers so that they can know the impact of brands and use their power, use their purchasing decisions to change the fashion industry to be more fair and sustainable. We started Good on You back in 2015 in Australia. And when we launched way back then, we had something like 10,000 downloads in less than 10 days. So we knew we were onto something.
Wow.
And since then, we've just been on a bit of a roll. We expanded into the US. We're seeing a lot of growth, especially in Europe. And I've spent a lot of time, overseas, kind of promoting the story of Good on You and connecting with lots of people that want to collaborate and partner with us. And but now, of course, I'm back at home and still talking to a lot of people, just in a different way. So it's cool to have this medium and try this out with you, because this is this is the situation right now, and still gives us ways to connect.
Definitely. And while we were trying to figure this all out, I was really talking about how sustainability can sometimes be really overwhelming. So I'm really grateful to platforms like yours that really break it down to if you're not in the know of sustainability, it really and helps people really understand what it is they're putting on their body. And again, just even like I always say, like even just trying one thing when it comes to sustainability, or trying one new brand that's sustainable can make a really big difference and probably give you an introduction into like this whole new world of sustainability. So very grateful for platforms like yours.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, sustainability can be overwhelming, but even sustainability in fashion, it's really complex. There's so many different issues, many, different organizations and brands and people are saying conflicting things, and it's a lot for people to try and digest and try and inform themselves. So I guess Good on You is trying to take all of that effort and confusion away from people, and just taking all the expertise and making sense of it for shoppers in a simple, accessible way, so they can use it as fashion lovers and as people who buy clothes. We all buy clothes, and this is hopefully making buying clothes with integrity and with ethics and sustainability in mind easy.
Yeah, someone actually just asked, how long does it take for you to add a brand on your app and rate it?
It really depends. I mean, over time we've built technology that is scouring public sources of information, everything from the hundreds of standards and certifications that exist in fashion, through to what a brand is publicly reporting on their website. So we have technology that's collecting and scoring and assessing all of that information. We also have internal expertise. Our head of ratings is an environmental scientist who leads a team of analysts that then, go into the depths of that information. For a brand that isn't doing anything on sustainability, or certainly isn't talking about it, it's really quick for us to rate them, because we score a brand based on their transparency, how open they're being about their social and environmental practices. So if they're not saying anything about it, then they score a 1 out of 5 on our rating system. And same at the other end of the scale, for a brand that is really open, that has signed up to all the relevant standards and accreditations and is talking about on their website what they're doing, it can be really quick to rate them too. But in reality, most brands sit in the middle and have started to think about these issues, and are either reluctant or maybe unsure, or still developing their practices, so don't have all of that information readily available.
I have a couple of people asking about your background and what inspired you to start Good on You.
So I worked for many years in business. I was in the banking sector of all things, which I still kind of find interesting and laugh at myself. But I was trying to work out what to do for a really long time. I just figured that, business skills would come into use at some point, but I was figuring out what my passion was. I always loved fashion. Having two older sisters and a mother that was a dressmaker when she first landed in Australia, certainly influenced that love for that industry. And I always had a bit of a bent for social justice. Again, through my parents and through my upbringing, thought it was really important to protect people and give everyone a fair opportunity in life. But yeah, I ended up in the corporate sector because I wasn't sure at that time what that actually would look like in my career and in my, I guess, personal mission. Until one day I kind of had a light bulb moment and thought, oh, hang on a second, maybe business can be a force for good. And, using my skills in the business context can actually shift things really significantly. Money has a lot of power. We all realize that. And if businesses spend money in a good way, then, we can solve a lot of social and environmental problems. And I eventually worked for many years in sustainability and in corporate social responsibility in big companies, and loved that for a really long time. But I did get frustrated with the pace of change being just so damn slow, and with trying to convince people in the corporate sector that sustainability was important. It was still, back then and even today, sadly, considered this thing on the side that wasn't
Yeah,
core to business.
it's a challenge.
And so, yeah. So I got really lucky. I realized that there was this consumer movement that I really associated myself with, people wanting to buy more consciously, and I met my co-founder who was building Good on You, and instantly just knew that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was speaking a little bit earlier before you had joined us about, again, people like me who are a little overwhelmed and like to break things down to the bare minimums so that we can understand it all. Can you talk a little bit about the 5 ratings that you go through when you are rating a brand?
Sure. So we look at sustainability in terms of a brand's impact on people, the planet, and animals. And, ensuring that brands are protecting our future, people's future, and the planet we live in, right from the design through to the production, and even the care for clothes after they're made. And within those 3 areas of people, planet, and animals, as I mentioned before, there's lots of issues, and they're complex. When we're considering a brand's environment on a brand's impact on the environment, we're looking at things like what materials are they using? Are they measuring and trying to improve their climate impacts? Do they have processes to reduce or eliminate the use of water, chemicals, and waste? Waste is a really big one, particularly in the context of circularity. An ideal outcome is that we're producing in a way that puts things back into the system through reuse and recycling, rather than, the same old model of we make it, we use it, and then we throw it away. So that goes to the core of how we assess on environment. For people, it's about, are we treating workers fairly, and not just workers in the retail store, but all the way down the supply chain? Are we making sure they're paid a living wage and protecting their safety, which, today is more important than ever?
So sorry, go ahead.
No, and then the third area is animals, and that's, looking at obviously the materials that are being used, and ensuring if there are animal materials being used, is there policies and processes around protecting the welfare of animals?
Ooh, this is a great question. Were brands open to being rated and working with Good on You when you first launched?
It's definitely changed over time, and it's definitely different for different brands. because we don't actually need to talk to a brand to rate them. We're,
Right.
representing consumers or shoppers, people like you and I, first and foremost. And we're looking for public information because we believe we all have the right to know. So, yeah, we can rate to a brand without actually engaging with them. And over time, more and more brands have learnt about us and have wanted to work with us in a collaborative way and asking us how they can become more transparent. But of course,
That's
many
amazing.
brands, especially, yeah, yeah, many brands, especially early on, um, weren't so happy if they weren't rated too well by Good on You and would question our approach and how can you possibly assess us without actually talking to us. But it's very easy for us to turn that conversation around and just explain what our purpose is, explain our approach for assessment. And then often, it means the brand then publishing more and going, okay, this makes sense. This is what you're doing to help shoppers, and this is our part. We can publish more about our practices so people can know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. So it's obviously Earth Day on Wednesday and Circularity Week here on Thousand Fell. And for people that are
Mhm.
joining us that, again, might not be familiar, I'd love for you to break down just what sustainability and circularity mean to you.
Um, so I think I touched on this before. Sustainability is about designing, sourcing, producing in a way that has the future in mind for people and the planet we all share and live in. In fashion, in particular, it's about carefully managing resources, climate change impacts, the welfare of animals, and and of course the fair treatment of workers, the people, the very makers of our clothes.
Yeah.
Um, Circularity goes to the concept of, again, what I mentioned before, that traditionally in fashion and in most industries actually, we have a model, a linear model of you design something, you make it, it then gets used or consumed and then often disposed of. Circularity is about changing that line to a loop where, instead of having a product that's just disposed of, we find a way to recycle and reuse and either at least extend the life, but ideally, give something new life.
I've been thinking a lot about the meaning of sustainability, especially amid the coronavirus pandemic, and what it means
Mm,
to be. I think a lot of people think baseline sustainability has a lot to do with the planet and how we are using materials and the animals that we're using. But especially in this situation, I've really tried to think about sustainability and whether it's from a brand or a corporation and how they're actually, what sustainability means beyond that in a global
mm.
pandemic and an emergency, and how many brands have maybe not been able to survive because they haven't been able to provide for their workers and the people that support them.